better world. And the Europeans have also launched a copycat program called Global Gateway. So as they say, imitation is the highest form of flattery. They may oppose BRI, but they want to be in the same line with the Chinese and try to have a copycat program. So let's see how it will operate. When we come to the current situation with China, we see, I'm reminded of an article I read a long time ago in the New York Times, which shows the mindset of the American security establishment. That article appeared on 13th November 1991, soon after the Cold War was over. The breakup of the Soviet Union was underway, and America was seeing itself as a sole superpower. The article was written by a very influential American who has since died. He was a New York Times correspondent and then also worked in the State Department, then also as the chairman of a lot of think tanks.
Chairman of Council of Foreign Relations.
Yes, Chairman of Council of Foreign Relations, Leslie Gelb. The title of the article was, and this is the article in the New York Times, Breaking China Apart. This was the title of an op-ed in the New York Times by Leslie Gelb, the chairman of the Council of Foreign Relations, Breaking China Apart. And it said that the US might encourage separatism against China, and US may take extraordinary measures to kindling separatism to stop China if China does not fall in line, quote unquote. 13th of November 1991. So I think that that kind of vision, that kind of mindset of the so-called sole superpower is in operation now when it comes to Xinjiang. I call it the 3Ds approach. First, you demonize a country. This happened with Iraq, this happened with Afghanistan, with Syria. It's the same pattern, or Russia now under Putin. Demonize, then you damage its reputation that through constant propaganda, and then you destabilize. So demonize, damage, and destabilize, and then destabilize. And what are the steps they have taken in this new Cold War against China? There are specific steps. And I will list 5 of those measures. Separately, you can connect the dots. First week of October 2020, the United States lifts the ban on ETIM, which they had certified in 2002, along with the United Nations as a separatist and terrorist organization. East Turkestan Islamic Movement. And the UN still retains that label of terrorism, but the US has lifted it. Similar to the way they lifted the ban on the MKO, Mujahideen-e-Khalq organization, against Iran, when they wanted to use the MKO in Iraq against Iran under the Bush administration. And after that, they had declared it axis of evil in 2002. The pattern is similar, so they lifted the ban. Secondly, the step taken 26th of October 2020, 1 week before the American presidential elections, Pompeo, the Secretary of State of the US, and Esper, the Secretary of Defense of the US, fly into Delhi to sign the BECA, Basic Exchange Cooperation Agreement, BECA, with India, which is a strategic agreement to rope in India before the American presidential elections. So it means there's a consensus between the Republicans and the Democrats. And it follows 2 other agreements. 2018, it was COMCASA on communication and data exchange, intelligence exchange. And in 2016, it was LEMOA, Logistics Exchange Memorandum of Association. And at the same time, in 2018, the Americans renamed the Asia Pacific Command as the Indo-Pacific Command. When Admiral Harris, the Commander-in-Chief, said, from Hollywood to Bollywood, we will have cooperation. And then they announced in NATO, the 2030 study, NATO 2030 document listed in November 2021 says China is one of the major threats and challenges for NATO. As far as my understanding of geography goes, China is never part. By which stretch of the imagination is China part of the North Atlantic? So China has now been put on the NATO agenda as a threat along with Russia. This was done. So part of the new Cold War. Then they established the AUKUS, AUKUS, Australia, UK, United States. They have the Quad, which includes Asian, but the AUKUS is more of a white man's club. Australia, UK, and US. It doesn't include Japan and India, who are Asian countries. So that was also very clearly because they want to now bring it together as part of the pivot of the Cold War in Asia Pacific. And the fifth aspect, I've listed all the steps they have taken for this new Cold War, was a recent passage of what is called the Strategic Competition Act by the US Congress. This is China specific, 270 pages. And in that, there is a $300 million annual, and I quote the name of the fund, called Countering China Influence Fund. This is the name. So it's officially now clear that it is to counter and combat China, propaganda, demonization, and you will see a lot of the money flowing in here also in different parts of the world. Although there are 145 countries in BRI and 32 international organizations, but they will continue with that. So this is what this whole situation is all about, the context. I'm just stating the facts which are there. And I think Sabah Aslam had a point when she talked of Chinese people and the relationship with the Communist Party of China. Please see the survey published by the Harvard University, by the Ash Center, which is part of Harvard University, in July 2020, which was a 17-year continuous study of Chinese public opinion, about 32,000 Chinese over a period of time, their views of the Communist Party of China and the governance. And the figures are astounding. Over 90% support and are satisfied with rule by the Communist Party of China in China. Because the reason is their lives are better off than before. Better than their forefathers, their parents, their grandparents. So the Communist Party of China has provided stability, continuity, peace, and prosperity to the people of China. So it is in this context we are seeing this issue. We in Pakistan are very clear, and I think the statements which came from Dr. Ijaz Akram, my good friend, and I compliment him and wish him good luck in his new role, and also Dr. Shirin Mazari, the Minister of Human Rights, there's strategic clarity where we stand and who do we stand with. And in this context, we congratulate our Chinese friends on the upcoming New Year, the Year of the Tiger. And together, the tigers in Pakistan and Asia will unite to combat any other hounds or any other kind of people who try to undermine our relationship. And we also congratulate the Chinese people on the upcoming Beijing Winter Olympics. We are very happy that the Prime Minister of Pakistan is also going to be there at the inaugural ceremony on 3rd of February and 4th of February and 5th of February. And I would also take up what Professor Liguang has said. Liguang is a Chinese Marco Polo because he goes to different places physically, personally. And I had the honor and pleasure 5 years ago of receiving him at the head of a 22-member delegation of students and scholars from Tsinghua and other universities in Hong Kong when he came by road from Kashgar through the Karakoram highway, and we received him at the tunnels which the Chinese have built after the Atabad Lake problem. And I compliment him the launching of the Wakhan Corridor Airport at Tashkargaon. I think it's a very major development. In May 2022, it will be inaugurated. And that means from Islamabad to Tashkargaon will take 40 to 45 minutes by jet. So the connectivity is going to be strong. And this connectivity is not just with Islamabad, it's with Kabul, with Dushanbe, with Ashkabad, with Tashkent, with Samarkand, with Bukhara, and all the other countries of, and also Almaty and Bishkek, so and Mashhad and Tehran. So I think that we are seeing this new connectivity, and Pakistan is very fortunate because of our role and because of our location. We are a pivotal player, and in this we have this very strong solidarity. China has been facing problems like any other countries. Xinjiang has been a problem. Tibet, you can already see the separatist movement has its headquarters in India, in Dharamshala, led by the Dalai Lama. Hong Kong also, when Hong Kong unrest started, it was very interesting to see Chinese protests being shown on Indian television, because the Indian television teams flew to Hong Kong as if on cue to disseminate those things. And I remember 5-6 years ago when I used to go to Xinjiang, it was a state of siege almost, because there were 2-3 acts of terrorism every fortnight, every month or so. We have had a problem of terrorism. Pakistan even used the Air Force to bomb people in our own territory on terrorism. So China is handling its issue, and it has restored peace without resorting to the such violence which we have seen in other countries. But obviously, as Professor Liguang says, there are attempts now to make it into what happened in Syria, Libya, Afghanistan, and other places in the Muslim world. And of course, China will not allow that, and no other country can allow that. And you can see what happened in Kazakhstan also, that there was this intervention, because they realized that there was, after Afghanistan, then there could be more instability in the region. So we in Pakistan value our strong friendship and solidarity with China. We support China on its core interests, be it Xinjiang, be it Taiwan, be it Tibet, be it Hong Kong, be it the South China Sea, and be it the Belt and Road Initiative. And we feel that this region, after 42 years of war in Afghanistan, can not return to any kind of a new war, whether hot or cold. And we reject this notion of a new Cold War, or this mindset, which is aimed at cleavages, conflict, and confrontation. So wishing you all a happy new year. Please stay safe from the Omicron virus, which is spread like wildfire even in Pakistan. And of course, China has had success in that with the zero COVID approach. And we wish you all the best in the Olympics, which are upcoming, and Pakistan is one of the participants, and Pakistan is rejecting the boycott of these Olympics, which is politically motivated, and which is also, again, another lever, another instrument, another tool of the so-called new Cold War against China, which is bound to fail. Because we should be on the right side of history, and the right side of history is the resurgence of Asia in the Asian century, in which Pakistan and China are strategic partners and iron brothers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Mujahid, for a very data-driven speech full of facts, from the Ash Center to Becca to the 2 projects of BB3W and the Global Gateway, and so many things. And we continue to learn, even though we have a lot of exposure to you, in a personal capacity and also from a think tank's perspective, but we continue to take notes when you're speaking, if I may say so, because so much knowledge and connecting the dots. I will now call upon, so thank you, Senator Mujahid, for that excellent summary. Ambassador Masood Khalid will be making an intervention. After that, Gerald Mabanda, the Director of the Ministry of Information of Rwanda, will make an intervention. And anyone else who would like to intervene or give a comment, please send a message in the chat box on Zoom. Ambassador Masood Khalid, and before Ambassador Masood Khalid speaks, just want to say that he's served in Beijing for 6 years, and he served at a very crucial time when CPEC was just taken off, and his contributions in Pakistan-China friendship and actually getting CPEC off the ground are tremendous, and we pay tribute to Ambassador Masood Khalid. Sometimes what happens is, in Pakistan, we forget people who have played an important role after they're no longer in office. And we reject the Cold War, we also reject that mindset. So over to you, Ambassador Masood Khalid.
Well, thank you very much. Good afternoon to everyone, and I'm so happy to see Professor Liguang. We are literally cut off from each other physically, but our minds and hearts are there together. Now, a very comprehensive and a very informed discussion has taken place. Very valuable comments have been made, and especially the last one by Senator Mushahid Hussain. I think this comprehensive overview, which he gave in about 12 minutes or so, giving data and figures and referring to studies and recalling the 1991, I think, study by the chairman of the council, an article in the New York Times. I think it was very useful for all of us. Now, I'll make some brief comments, and so I don't want to encroach upon the time, which is available. First of all, it's very clear that the purpose of this, overdrawn security construct by the United States through formation of a coalition of like-minded countries in the form of Quad, AUKUS, Indo-US strategic partnership, and now, this coalition, the Middle East, Israel, UAE, and United States, this and that. Primarily, it is meant to contain China's technological and, economic rise and to strangulate China's progress. This is my point number one. Point number two is that US and the West wants, to unleash a kind of a domino effect in those regions of China, in those provinces of China, which are perceived as vulnerable. This attempt was made in Hong Kong, and they were successful in mobilizing quite a massive sort of outpouring, but it was engineered, it was inspired, but the Chinese government came forward and has controlled the situation there more or less. Now they are trying the same thing in Xinjiang, and then perhaps next will be Tibet, because as you would recall, when Secretary of State Blinken visited India a couple of months ago, he did meet the Tibetan dissidents there. So one should see these developments in a larger context. That kind of a domino effect is trying to be engineered and triggered in China so that China's stability is undermined. And I would not like to dilate more or explain more how important Xinjiang is. I think previous speakers have very eloquently articulated that point of view. We all know how important Xinjiang is. If Xinjiang is destabilized, BRI and CPAC will receive a serious setback, goes without saying. So China's effort is to sort of defeat these designs, to foil these designs through security measures. And, when this trouble, so-called propaganda against China started in the context of Xinjiang, it was being said that the genocide is taking place. Now that term has been downgraded to cultural genocide. So, this is all gimmickry. And the attempts which are being made to really create problems for China on all fronts, I would say. Internal front and externally also, China is trying to be encircled. Now, China's current standoff with India should also be seen in that larger context, that China wants to consolidate its position in these sensitive and vulnerable regions like Tibet, Xinjiang, and of course in Hong Kong. So through military means, through security measures, and sort of creating some kind of new facts on ground, so that India, for instance, is not able to undermine China's strategic and military interest in Tibet and Xinjiang. So this point also needs to be borne in mind. I agree with the point. I think it was Professor Liguang, I think, made this point that basically the purpose of this bill and similar other measures, coercive measures by United States, is to divide China and to create misgivings between China and the Muslim world. So I think this is important to keep in mind, that these attempts will continue. And Senator Mushaid Hussain also referred to this endowment, $300 million endowment, which has been created to step up propaganda against China. But here, I would like to recall an article by Tom Friedman in the New York Times also. I think way back in early 90s, he had predicted the collapse of China. And later on, a few years ago, he admitted himself that that was a wrong theory. That was a wrong, guess and anticipation. And he said that China is moving ahead, and my theory was wrong. So my point is that those who are, dreaming or who desire China's collapse, I think they will fail. And these attempts by the United States, against China will also fritter out. I don't think they will backfire, because there is no traction for this. 145 countries in BRI, they want their interest promoted through collaboration between China and them. So they do not want, even ASEAN countries are not prepared to choose sides. Even European countries are not prepared to choose sides between United States and China. So this is the picture which should be kept in mind. In Pakistan, while we take pride, on our relations with China, time-tested friendship, and China has always come forward to help Pakistan whenever we have faced problems, and vice versa. Pakistan also supports China on its vital issues, on its core interest. But I think there are certain elements in Pakistan who are, I think, being supported by the powers, by the external powers, to indulge in this anti-China kind of, in promoting anti-China sentiment. And this is sometimes deliberate and sometimes based on misinformation or half-baked information. And, they buy these theories about the China threat, about China debt, and this and that. Of course, they are not knowledgeable on the facts fully. So my point is that we have to guard against such elements who now and again will try their best to create an environment where some misgivings are created in this vital relationship between Pakistan and China. But I am confident that this relationship is so resilient and is strong, and is so sure-footed that we will collectively and jointly foil all these nefarious designs. Thank you very much. I'll stop here.
Thank you, Ambassador Masood Khalid. I think excellent points, and I think you've also given a great context from India to what's happening in Pakistan and proxies, and the momentum which is being built for this Cold War that we've been talking about. Now, I'd like to pass the virtual podium to Mr. Gerald Mubanda from the Ministry of Information. He's a director in Rwanda, which is also part and parcel of the Belt and Road Initiative and has some of the successful BRI projects in Africa, actually. And Gerald was at the Peking University, and Gerald and I have had the pleasure of being students at the Peking University as well. He's a good person, friend. Such a pleasure to see you on Zoom. Over to you, Gerald.
Yeah. Thank you, my brother. I'm glad to see you, and thank you for inviting me. I'm glad to see Senator. I think we last saw each other in China. I'm really glad to follow and get the great ideas from this discussion. And I agree with all presenters really that what the US is doing about Xinjiang, it's all about counteracting the China rise. If you look at the history of the US, I think there is no country in the world that has committed gross human rights against the people of their countries like the US has done. The country they are occupying, we know that they committed a genocide against the indigenous people. So it would not be US to talk about any human rights violation in any country. Secondly, issues of human rights and democracy, I think, therefore, internal matters of each and every country, not an external. Every country has got a system of democracy that, of course, does not have to be universal. All countries don't have to subscribe to the capitalistic way of democracy. So these, I think, are excuses, as most of the presenters said, that really point to undermining China's rights. And this is the biggest threat that I think the United States has. And of course, they are intending to isolate China from the rest of the world. The Xinjiang boycott of cotton and other issues, I think this is also economic because it is intended to isolate China from the global supply chain. So probably I could take this chance to tell you about the experience with Africa, because isolation of China is not only focused on issues like Xinjiang. Also in Africa, when you look at what the United States is doing in Africa, first of all, the West colonized most of the African countries. But after colonialism, they assumed that Africa was their own space of dominion. But as they got involved in wars around the world, I think they had that kind of feeling that they have their own land there. But little did they know that China was developing close and better friendship with African countries. And by the time they woke up, they found China was doing a lot of business. China was giving a lot of help to African countries. And most of the countries have really got a win-win kind of relationship with China. So today, most of the African countries have signed up to the BRI. And this has taken the US and most of the Western countries by surprise. So they wake up now and come and try to find a way they can isolate China from African countries, which is almost impossible because since the year 2000, when China and African countries signed what is called the FOCA, or the Forum for China and African Cooperation, we see that African countries have benefited a lot in terms of infrastructure development, in terms of agriculture improvement, and these African countries have also found a benefit in working with China than the US. Of course, in the 100 years of colonization, they never had such a good cooperation and improvement. So they're using the word debt trap to try and tell African countries that China is giving them money that they can never pay back. But this is not true because they lied to African countries in the 1980s, what they call the Structural Development Program, which actually plunged the African countries more into debt. But the African countries need this money for development. And this is what China is doing. So what we see in Xinjiang is no different from what is happening to other countries all over the world. So the rise of China is a very threatening issue to the West. And I think as friends of China, what I may say is that we should be exposing this hypocrisy and also tell the world that China is not alone, so that we expose them. There is no such a thing. Every country, by the way, has its way of fighting terrorism because terrorism is a global threat. China has used its own ways of solving the problem in Xinjiang. But if this is called a genocide, then I think we should come to the side of China and explain to the world, because most of the propaganda, we see what is happening there. We should have other voices all over the world trying to show that really what China is doing is in her right. She has to find her own means of fighting terrorism, because we don't have one policy that fits everyone to deal with terrorism. So I think on the Xinjiang issue and also the Cold War mentality, these are issues that affect us globally, not only China neighbors, but also the whole world. And I think we have to come up and show solidarity with our Chinese friends, and how these Western countries can be counteracted on the issues that want to isolate China from the rest of the world. I thank you very much. I think those are my few comments.
Thank you, sir. I think that is a great perspective from Africa, and also the experience of Africa, with colonialism and how that's linked with what now China is facing from the West, and the dividends of the BRI in countries like yours, and we've had many conversations. So thank you very much for that very important perspective. Senator Mshad, you want to say something? Okay. And would anyone else like to make any comment? Yes, Senator Mshad. We can't hear you.
I said I was complimenting Mr. Gerald Mamanda for a very good speech, and gave a perspective from Africa, which is normally missing in the discourse, and how China has helped Africa, conversely, how the West has exploited Africa. Thank you so much. It was a good learning experience, sir.
And thank you, Tariq Sumer Saab from the News and Jung newspaper for also joining us. Would anyone else like to make any comment before we wrap up? Okay. So we got a good, it's 1:30. We started at 12. So I think we will conclude this session. We are very grateful to all our speakers for taking out time from the schedule, and for the participants for taking out time from during the working hours on a weekday. We are very grateful. We are grateful, Professor Liguang, that you took out time from Beijing to be a part of this on short notice. And we thank everyone. The Friends of Silk Road will be an ongoing conversation. And this is our 18th event since the launch of the Friends of Silk Road. And the Friends of Silk Road gives a platform to civil society, political parties, media, businesses, to come on one platform and to discuss the Belt and Road Initiative, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. And we have the event today is on Xinjiang, and we have another one, the Joint Consultative Mechanism with the International Department of the Central Committee on January 24th, and multiple other initiatives and events that we will keep all of you posted. And the Friends of Silk Road, after its success in Pakistan, for everyone's perusal, has now become a good and prominent initiative in other countries after the successful pilot in Pakistan, in Bangladesh, Malaysia, Nepal, Bhutan, and Philippines also. So this is an important platform, and we will continue to build on this platform, and your feedback on how to enhance this is also welcome. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And have a great day and remain safe. Thank you very much.